What happens when a white couple gives away a baby girl at birth, only to be saved by her 30 years later? This isn't just a story about medicine. It's a story about identity, regret, redemption, and the daughter they never truly let go. From the edge of rural Arizona to the heart of a hospital, where past and present collide. Meet Dr. Nia Rios, a woman with a forgotten name, a stolen past, and a secret that will bring an entire family to their knees. If you've ever believed in second chances or questioned the cost of silence, this story is for you. Stick with us and witness what happens when truth finds its voice, and love, finally, remembers. We never had children. That's what Alma Hart always told herself, and others, whenever the conversation teetered toward family. But it was never the truth. Not entirely. And on that brittle November morning, the lie unraveled faster than her breath could fog the hospital room's window. Alma sat in a stiff plastic chair beside her husband Gregory, their hands barely touching, the kind of distance that isn't physical, but bone deep. Machines beeped in measured rhythm beside their bed's felines dangled like limp vines from their arms. Outside, the red sun of Phoenix fought its way through haze, the air still tainted by the chemical plume from last summer's mine fire. It was that fire, the experts said, that had tainted the water, contaminated the wells, poisoned the pipes, and it was that poison that now rotted their kidneys from the inside. Gregory tried to sit up. How long do we have? The question floated toward the doctor standing at the foot of the bed, a young woman in teal scrubs, her posture still and elegant like a sculpture. Dr. Rios. She glanced at her clipboard, more for drama than necessity. If you don't get a transplant within the next few months. She let the silence fill in the rest. Gregory reached for Alma's hand. This time she let him hold it. There was something about dying together that felt more tolerable than dying alone. But it was what happened next. The curveball, the impossible, irony that would haunt them longer than any diagnosis. Because Dr. Rios lifted her gaze, and when her eyes met Alma's, something cold passed between them. Recognition maybe, pain, definitely. "Mrs. Hart," she said. Not Alma, not even ma'am. Too formal, too distant for what she was about to say next. "I reviewed your labs and there's something unusual I need to discuss privately." Gregory noticed it first. The eyes, that shade of amber, flecked with storm gray rings. He'd only seen those eyes once before in a delivery room 3 decades ago. "It can't be," he whispered. Alma looked again, the full lips, the high cheekbones, not hers but Tanya's. Tanya's child, Tanya's daughter, the baby they had named Zaria, a name they only whispered once, then buried for good. But now she was here alive, standing in a hospital room in Phoenix with a stethoscope around her neck and a nameplate that read, Dr. Nia Rios. Nia, not Zaria, not the name they gave, not the life they had imagined. Alma felt her stomach drop. Was this fate? Karma? Divine irony? Whatever it was, it had come for them, and it wore the face of the daughter they never raised. Dr. Rios cleared her throat. "I'll be your attending nephrologist moving forward." No emotion, no clue that her presence had shattered. 31 years of silence. Gregory stood abruptly. His legs trembled. "I need a moment." Alma remained frozen. So did the clock on the wall, it seemed, and in that suspended moment, between past regrets and present consequences, a truth long, buried clawed its way to the surface. They had given away their daughter, and now she might be the only one who could save them. The sun over Millbridge, Arizona was always crueler in June, the kind of sun that baked secrets into the sidewalk. It was there under that blistering heat that Alma first agreed to become a surrogate, not for a stranger, but for her cousin Tanya. Tanya, the painter with a laugh like wind chimes and a spirit nobody could tame. She and her partner Micah had tried for years to have a baby. Alma had 2 healthy pregnancies before the miscarriages started. When Tanya asked, Alma didn't hesitate. "Of course," she said. It was family. It was love. and she believed it would be simple. But nothing stayed simple in Millbridge, especially not once race got involved. The town liked its traditions, its symmetry, its sameness. When Tanya and Micah died in a freak plane crash over Red Mesa, just 3 weeks before Alma was due, the town began to whisper. The preacher called it a sign. The grocery store clerk stopped making eye contact. One neighbor left a Bible at their door with a note tucked in the front. Your burden is not our blessing. Gregory begged her not to read it, but she did, and the words carved something hollow inside her. With Tanya gone and no clear will in place, the agency turned to Alma and Gregory. You're the next of kin, they said. You're legally allowed to keep the child. And for a brief moment, just one night, Alma allowed herself to imagine it. A girl with Tanya's fire and Micah's wisdom, raised in a house filled with art and music and stories. But the morning after, reality came. It showed, up in the form of an anonymous voicemail. You raise that baby, you'll never work in this town again. Alma worked for the county school board. Gregory ran a small HVAC business passed down from his father. They couldn't afford a war, not then, not while grieving. So they made the decision that still bruised their marriage, even 3 decades later. They gave the baby up, through a closed adoption with a family out of state. They requested updates, received none. Alma cried for a week straight. Gregory built a shed in silence, hammering until his hands bled. They named her anyway, Zaria. It meant radiance. She would never know the name, never wear the locket they had made. But Alma kept it, in a box under her scarves. She looked at it every birthday, 31 birthdays. Now, here she was. Dr. Rios, and the water that had poisoned their bodies was nothing compared to the shame that poisoned their past. Alma Hart had never spoken the name aloud since the day they signed the papers. Zaria. It had come to her in a dream, weeks before the birth. She told Tanya first. It means hope, in Swahili, in Hebrew, and in the quiet corners of my heart. Alma had said. Tanya loved it. Micah kissed Alma's hand. Then hope she'll be. For those few weeks before the tragedy, everything felt certain. They would be the parents. Alma, the helper. Zaria, the bridge between 2 families. But when the plane fell from the sky, and Tanya and Micah vanished into red earth and scorched pine, certainty died with them. Still, the name stayed. Etched onto the back of the locket, written in the journal Alma never let Gregory read. Hope, what they had abandoned, what now returned in the form of a woman with careful eyes and steel in her voice. Dr. Nia Rios. She had changed. Everything. Gregory had barely slept since that first appointment. Alma kept her silence during the days and cried behind cupboard doors at night. They spoke in fragments, words like, should've, maybe, too late. Then Alma did something she hadn't done in years. She opened her laptop, she searched. Black woman, Arizona, Dr. Rios, kidney specialist. Nothing at first. Then a podcast. Desert Dialogues, Health Equity in America. Guest, Dr. Nia Rios, her voice, calm, measured, talking. About water contamination, systemic injustice, and building trust where none existed. She's brilliant, Alma whispered. Gregory nodded. They sat in silence for the full 38 minutes of the episode. Then, almost in sync, they both whispered it. Zaria. Gregory picked up his phone. St. Gabriel Regional Hospital, Dr. Nia Rios, nephrology. He called, requested an appointment, used his alias email. Didn't mention the past, didn't mention fate. Just listed their symptoms. Within days, they had a referral. You'll be assigned to Dr. Rios, the front desk told them. Alma hung up the phone, then cried until dinner. The morning of the appointment, Alma braided her hair like Tanya used to. Gregory wore the green tie Micah had given him for his promotion. They didn't speak about it, didn't need to. Hope had a face now, a nameplate, and the power to save or to punish. In the waiting room, Alma gripped the armrest until her knuckles burned. She watched patients leave Naya's office with smiles. She watched a nurse touch Naya's shoulder gently in admiration. She watched her daughter laugh, a sound so much like Tanya's it nearly broke her. When they were finally called in, Alma felt the air thicken. Nia smiled politely. "Mr. and Mrs. Hart, let's take a look at your file." Not even a flicker of recognition, but Alma knew better. Behind those calm eyes, questions brewed. Zarya was still in there somewhere, and Hope, as it turned out, remembered everything. The internet is a strange place to meet your child. Even stranger when that child doesn't know you're looking. Alma sat at her kitchen table, back curved, glasses sliding down her nose. She had typed the same phrase 5 different ways. Nephrologist. Arizona. Afro-Latina. Rios. She'd even tried adding bright smile and hazel eyes. Too poetic for the search engine. Too desperate for results. Gregory had given up an hour ago. He'd retreated to the garage, pretending to fix the water heater that had never needed fixing. But Alma stayed. She clicked page 5, then page 6. And that's when she found it. A lecture at a university conference, recorded on someone's phone. The title read, Bridging the Gap, Water Justice and Rural Medicine. And there she was, Dr. Nia Rios, standing at a podium, her hair pulled back into a braid like Tanya used to wear, her tone calm but urgent, her message clear. Healing isn't just about medicine. It's about rebuilding trust in the places we've ignored. The audience clapped. Alma did not. She sat frozen, hand hovering over the mouse. The screen felt alive, like if she reached forward, Nia might blink back. She watched the entire talk 3 times, every gesture, every pause. A mother memorizing a child she'd never raised. Later that night, Gregory returned, oil on his hands, guilt in his eyes. He didn't ask what she found. She didn't tell him. Instead, she printed the video thumbnail, taped it to the fridge like a school photo. And for the first time in years, they ate dinner at the table. In the days that followed, Alma fell down a rabbit hole of Nia's career. Academic journals, panel discussions, even a write-up in Desert Health Weekly. She traced the years like breadcrumbs. Residency in New Mexico, fellowship in El Paso. Then, 2 years ago, St. Gabriel Regional just outside Tucson. 42 minutes from here, she told Gregory, holding up the map. He squinted, too close to ignore. They stared at the glowing pin for a long time. Then Gregory did something unexpected. He pulled out his phone and dialed. St. Gabriel Regional. Appointments, please. He didn't stutter, didn't hedge. When the receptionist asked who referred them, he simply said, "The water," which was, in its way, true. Within hours, they had confirmation. Dr. Rios would be assigned. Alma looked at her husband. "Are you ready for this?" Gregory's mouth twitched. Were we ever? They spent the weekend cleaning the house as if Nia might come over. Alma ironed clothes no one would see. Gregory polished shoes he hadn't worn since his retirement. But underneath the rituals was something raw. A reckoning. Monday arrived like a verdict. In the parking lot of St. Gabriel, Alma clutched the locket, the one with Tanya's smile inside. Gregory touched her shoulder. "You don't have to show her yet." Alma nodded. "Let's just see if she sees us first." The nurse led them down a hall lined with lavender walls and soft music. It didn't feel like a hospital. Not exactly. More like a place pretending not to be. Gregory walked ahead, holding the paperwork. Alma lagged slightly behind, fingers clenched. Round the locket. Every step felt heavier than the last. At the end of the corridor, the nurse stopped. "Dr. Rios will see you now." She opened the door. Alma's breath caught. Nia sat at a small desk typing. Her white coat hung neatly behind her. Her stethoscope rested across her collarbones like jewelry. She looked up, stood, smiled. "Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. Hart." No flicker of surprise, no recognition. Alma tried to respond, but her voice betrayed her. Gregory nodded. "Thanks for seeing us." Nia gestured toward 2 chairs. Alma sat down slowly. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Nia opened their chart on a tablet. "I've reviewed your lab results. I'd like to run a few more tests before we discuss treatment options." Gregory cleared his throat. "Is it bad?" Nia tilted her head, thoughtful. It's not good. But it's not hopeless either. That word again. Hope. Alma flinched. Nia looked up. Something wrong. Alma forced a smile. No, just tired. There was a pause. Then Nia stood. I'll send the nurse in for blood work. She turned to leave, then stopped. Her eyes landed on Alma's hand. The locket. May I ask where you got that? Alma clutched it instinctively. It was a gift. A long time ago. Nia nodded slowly. I had one like that once. I think I lost it when I was little. The silence pulsed. Then Nia smiled politely and exited the room. Gregory exhaled. That was her. That's our daughter. Alma nodded, tears welling. She doesn't know. Not yet. They sat in stunned silence until the nurse returned. Later that night, Alma wrote a letter. She didn't know if she would ever send it, but she needed to put it somewhere. She addressed it simply. To the daughter I once called Hope. Nia sat on the edge of her father's porch, coffee cup in hand, the steam curling into the cool twilight air. Ramon Rios stepped out beside her, easing into the chair with the familiar groan of old wood. He didn't say much at first. He rarely did. Instead, he let her speak when she was ready. And tonight she wasn't sure she ever would be. I had patience today, she said finally. A couple. Ramon nodded. She stared ahead past the orange grove into the dimming sky. They looked familiar, but not in a way I could place. He took a sip, waited. They had this in stillness, she continued, like they were waiting for something, not just care, something deeper. Her voice grew quieter. The woman had a locket, just like the one I lost at the foster home when I was 4. Ramon didn't move, didn't flinch, but something passed over his face, grief, memory, maybe fear. I remember that locket, he said softly. Lydia and I looked everywhere for it. Nia held her mug tighter. Why do you think I remember things like that? Ramon exhaled. Because some memories don't belong to time. They belong to the soul. She looked at him. He wasn't usually poetic, but tonight, the words felt right. Did you ever think I'd go looking for them? She asked. The people who gave me up? He didn't answer quickly. Then, I always hoped you'd look for yourself first. Nia blinked. I did. And what I found doesn't fit. Ramon turned toward her. Doesn't fit how? I've got their eyes, her cheekbones, his posture. But not their names, not their love. He nodded slowly. You have our name, and all of our love. The wind picked up. Leaves whispered across the concrete. Nia spoke again. She asked me where. I got the locket. What did you say? That it was a gift, long ago, he smiled gently. Well, that wasn't a lie. She looked down at the coffee. I think she knows, or suspects. Ramon stood, placed a hand on her shoulder. If they gave you up, then lost you, then found you again. Let them be the ones to speak first. And if they don't, he squeezed lightly, then you'll know the story is still yours to tell. Nia didn't respond right away, but her heart did. She looked up at the stars, wondering which ones Tanya had named, and whether Alma had ever named her aloud again. Somewhere between memory and medicine, a truth waited, not in charts, not in DNA, but in silence, and maybe in forgiveness. Gregory stared at the envelope on the table. He'd held it for 5 minutes, maybe 10. The return address said, St. Gabriel Regional, Genetics Lab, but it could have just as well said, Truth. Alma came in from the garden, wiping dirt from her hands. She froze when she saw it. Is that what I think it is? Gregory nodded. He slid it across the table. Alma didn't touch it. Instead, she sat down. They stared at it together. 32 years boiled down to a single test. They hadn't told Nia about the lab order. It had been Gregory's idea. Just to be sure, he'd said. As if her voice, her eyes, her fingers weren't already shouting the answer. But certainty demanded proof. He finally tore it open. The letter was short, clinical. Based on the submitted DNA samples, There is a 99.9996% probability that Nia Rios is the biological child of Alma and Gregory Hart. Gregory let out a shaky breath. Alma closed her eyes. She's ours. Gregory nodded. She always was. The phone rang. It was the hospital. Nia's voice came through, steady as always. Hi, Mr. Hart, I wanted to discuss some findings. If you and Mrs. Hart have time today, I'm available at 4:30. Alma mouthed the time. Gregory said yes. When they arrived, the waiting room felt smaller, tighter. The receptionist smiled. You can head right in. Nia stood by the window, reading. Chart. She turned when they entered. Please have a seat. Alma sat, but her hands wouldn't stop moving. Nia noticed. Your kidney function is declining. We'll need to talk options. Dialysis, donor lists, lifestyle adjustments. Gregory nodded. We understand. Then Alma spoke. There's something we have to tell you. Nia looked up, curious. Patient. We didn't just end up here by chance. She paused. We asked for you. Nia tilted her head slightly. I see. Alma continued. You were born. Zaria, to Tanya and Micah. Nia blinked. Gregory added. They were family. When they died, we were asked to raise you, but we didn't. The silence stretched. Then Nia spoke, voice low. I always knew there was a gap, a name I wasn't told, a story missing. Alma reached into her purse, pulled out the letter, and the locket. She placed both on the table. I don't expect forgiveness. I just need you to know. Nia stared at the items, then at them. You didn't abandon me. You chose survival. Alma broke, so did Gregory. Nia stood, placed her hand gently over Alma's. Blood doesn't lie, but love doesn't either. In that small, sterile room, something ancient healed, not all at once, but enough to begin again. The transplant list was long, too long, and time was short. Gregory's condition had worsened over the past month, his face thinner, his eyes darker. The man who once lifted air conditioners by hand now needed help tying his shoes. Nia reviewed his abs again. The numbers didn't lie. Neither did the fatigue in his voice. We may need to prepare for dialysis, she said gently. Gregory nodded. Alma, silent, pressed his hand. It was then Nia made a decision. One she hadn't told anyone, not Ramon, not the ethics board, not even herself, until that moment. I want to get tested as a donor match, she said. The room froze. Alma's lips parted. Gregory sat up straighter. But why? He asked. You're my patient. Nia looked at them both. You're also my past, my present, maybe part of who I become next. Alma shook her head. It's too much. Nia smiled. Love is always too much. But sometimes it's also just enough. The screening process took a week. Blood work, scans, evaluations. And then the call came. She was a match, a rare one, compatible across key markers. Her heart thudded when she read the results. She walked into Gregory's room that evening. You have a donor. Gregory blinked. Alma gasped. Then Nia smiled. It's me. The silence was sacred, like church, like birth, like redemption. Gregory tried to protest. Nia held up her hand. This is mine to give. The surgery was scheduled 2 weeks out. In the meantime, they prepared, not just medically, but emotionally. Gregory and Nia walked the hospital garden every afternoon. He told her stories of Tanya, of how they'd met, of how much she'd wanted a daughter just like Nia. Alma packed a box, old photos, drawings from prenatal visits, a tiny crocheted hat Tanya had made, and in the middle of it all, the adoption papers, unsigned, unfinished. The day before surgery, Nia sat between them, hands on both shoulders. 3. Lives on one moment. No more secrets, just breath and hope, always hope. It sat in a drawer for months, folded neatly. The ink faded in places where tears had once dried. Nia wrote it the night before the surgery, before she knew the outcome, before she gave her kidney away, before she chose to forgive. It began simply, to the parents I never knew and the ones I came to know. She wrote it as a release, A goodbye to the resentment, to the ache of not knowing, to the fear of being unclaimed. She wrote about Tanya, what little she remembered. The lullabies, the smell of cinnamon in her hair, the one time she had a fever, and Tanya stayed up all night. Nia wrote about Alma, her hands always folded in her lap, her voice quiet but heavy with remorse. Her effort. She wrote about Gregory, the way he cracked jokes to hide his fear, how he always brought an extra apple for her. After checkups, she ended the letter with one line, "Thank you for coming back." After the transplant, everything changed slowly, not all at once. Gregory's color returned, his appetite, his spirit. Alma started baking again, first muffins, then loaves, then pies. Nia began stopping by their home on Sundays, sometimes for brunch, sometimes just to sit. They never called it family, but it felt like one. One afternoon, while Alma watered the basil and Gregory napped, Nia returned to the drawer. She read the letter again. No tears this time, just quiet, just peace. She took it outside, sat on the porch swing, and for the first time, she read it aloud, to no one, to everyone, to herself. Then she folded it one last time, slipped it back into the envelope, and tucked it inside a book on their shelf. A book Tanya had once underlined. The line read, "We do not choose our beginnings, but we may choose what becomes of them." Nia smiled, because in the end she had chosen, and they had too. St. Gabriel was quieter now, quieter than it had been months ago, but Nia walked the halls like someone who had never left, because she hadn't. Not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually. She was rooted now, not in confusion or legacy, but in choice and clarity. Every Tuesday she ran the rural clinic out past Catalina. Every Thursday she met with the water board to fight for safer infrastructure, and every other Sunday she made scones. Not because she liked baking, but because Alma AC always forgot to eat breakfast. Gregory called them Nia's surprise drops. He kept a journal of the flavors. Blueberry basil, lemon thyme, chili mango. That one was a mistake, but he ate it anyway. There were no more secrets between them now. Just slow mornings and shared smiles. Ramon visited once a month. He always left. Flowers by Tanya's photo. He never said much, but his eyes told the story. Pride, relief. Nia had stayed. In her office at the hospital, beside her diplomas, hung a new frame. Inside it, a sketch Tanya once drew. It showed a tree, roots tangled, branches. At its center a single word, grow. Patients came and went. Colleagues changed. Administrators fussed. But Nia remained. She became the one who remembered stories, the one who noticed when someone skipped a meal, the one who sat with new interns and said, "Medicine is memory." Some evenings after rounds she'd drive out to the edge of the desert, just her, a journal and the wind. She'd write things Tanya might have said, things Alma was too shy to share aloud, things Gregory forgot and then remembered. Nia never published. Memoir. Never gave interviews. But every once in a while a patient would say, "You're the one who helped save my father," and Nia would smile. "No, I'm just the one who stayed." The mural went up in the spring, painted on the side of the old clinic where Nia first started. It showed a desert sunrise, cacti blooming, and 3 figures under a mesquite tree. One old man, one gentle woman, and a young doctor with a stethoscope. In braid, above them words in both English and Spanish, "Lo que el amor recuerda, what love remembers." Alma didn't know who commissioned it. Gregory claimed it wasn't him, but his eyes twinkled. Nia saw it for the first time on her way to rounds. She pulled over, sat across from it in the grass, and cried. Not because it was perfect, but because it was true. That weekend, the town held a small ceremony. They called it Community Day, but it was really about her. Former patients spoke. Colleagues shared stories. One child read a poem. "She showed me how to breathe when my lungs forgot." Gregory sat in front, proud and tearful. Alma brought Nia's first stethoscope and laid at the mural's base. Ramon lit a candle. No speeches, just silence and wind afterwards. Nia walked up to the microphone. She held a single page and read, "We are not what we inherit, but what we offer back. I was a child who lost her name, a doctor who almost lost her way. But love remembered me. The crowd didn't clap. They stood because sometimes standing says more than sound. And under that painted sky, with roots deep and branches wide, they all remembered too." The letters came in slowly, one at first, then two, then a dozen. Not from family, but from strangers. People who had heard of her clinic, her work, her name. Some were patients, some were students. One was a girl from a reservation 2 hours north. She wrote, "My name is Alita. I want to be a doctor like you." Nia pinned that one beside her desk. She began writing back. Not long letters, just truth and encouragement. She never signed with titles, just, "Stay curious, love, Nia." Over time, her mailbox overflowed. Gregory helped sort them. Alma made tea and read them aloud. Ramon built a cedar box to keep them. He carved one word on the lid, hope. It was the name they never forgot, the one they gave, the one she became. One morning, Nia was asked to speak at the university. She almost said no. But Alita's second letter arrived, so she said yes. The auditorium was full. She stood under bright lights, looked into young, expectant eyes, and began, "I am not here because I knew everything. I'm here because I stayed through what I didn't." She spoke of uncertainty, of medicine, of second chances, of the family you find again, of the ones you choose to heal. The room didn't move, didn't blink. Then, slowly, they rose to their feet, not with applause, but with stillness, a silent thank you. And afterward, she walked alone through campus. The air smelled like oranges, and something else. Legacy. She thought of Tanya, of being held. Then, let go. Then found again. Of Alma's trembling hands, Gregory's broken smile, Ramon's quiet strength. She had become a bridge, a circle closed, a story remembered, and now, a story passed on. She looked up at the setting sun and whispered to no one, "I became who I needed," so they wouldn't have to wonder. You've just witnessed the impossible, a daughter lost to silence, a family broken by fear, and a doctor who stood at the intersection of past and purpose, and chose love. If this story made you cry, hope, or simply breathe a little deeper, let it stay with you, because maybe the greatest surgeries aren't those done in operating rooms, but in living rooms, in hospital corridors, in letters never sent, and hearts, once divided, now whole again. This isn't just fiction, it's a reminder we can still heal. We can still choose one another, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. So don't just watch. Remember. Share. Live like someone's story is still unfolding, because it is. And if you've ever waited for a sign, this is it. You are the one who stays. You are the one who forgives. You are the one who remembers.